Okay, welcome. Just to get things started, this is kind of new for us. It may be new for you. This is an administered meeting. Only the proposed board members will appear on screen. The administrator will control who's speaking and will follow the agenda. If attendees have questions or comments, use the chat option available on the screen and the administrator will pass them on to be answered. The meeting is also being recorded and access to playback will be made available later. So welcome, I'm Sandy Hildreth, one of the founding members of ArtWorks back in 2008. And I'm on the slate of board members as the nominee to be the first president of ArtWorks. I welcome you to our first official annual meeting. So I'll talk a little bit about membership first. We have 33 gallery or organization members. We have 58 individual artist members. These are record numbers. We've never had that many before. And I thank you for your trust and your support of ArtWorks, especially during this pandemic. And COVID-19 certainly has had an impact. In a normal year, we dedicate nearly 100% of membership fees to advertising and marketing. But in 2020, we were forced to follow a different course. We developed our full color brochure, but instead of printing and distributing 20,000 copies, we only printed around 2,000. The places that normally display them were closed. We did not think people would be traveling at all. Little did we know what would happen this summer. We normally advertise events like the art walks, the studio tours, the plein air festival, not only for artists who participate in them, but to attract people to our region and to discover all the arts that flourish here. In regular years, we would also be helping to promote your events, various gallery shows, theater performances, concerts, workshops, classes, arts-related presentations, but many of them were canceled. We did have 3 major accomplishments in 2020. ArtWorks is now incorporated as a not-for-profit and is a legitimately recognized organization. That means we're eligible for grants and foundation support. We can accept donations that are tax deductible. And our goals basically remain the same: to promote the arts within our communities and to help our members grow, develop, and attain success. We got a new website and a new logo. Ta-da! I really like it. I think the unbalanced square is kind of edgy and creative, ready to go in any direction. And ArtWorks is emphasized more than Saranac Lake because we wanted that to be the important part of it. And then we got a brand new website, funded in part by a Cloud Splitter grant and an online fundraising campaign through the Adirondack Foundation in 2019 and member dues in 2020. So we transitioned from a homemade but functional.com website to a professional multifunctional.org website. And it is easier to update and maintain. On this new website, every member, whether individual artist or major arts organization, has their own page with images, description, contact information, and links to your individual websites. We are also now set up with an online calendar with the potential to be the arts calendar for the region, and with the capacity to send out monthly or weekly event listings to our email list. What's important is we need you, gallery, organization, and even individual artists, to put your events on the calendar. It's easy, no passwords required. You just go online, find the calendar, click on submit or add your event. The more full our calendar is and the farther in advance, the more reasons people interested in the arts have for coming here. And we had some successful events this summer. Susan Whiteman will report on the 2020 Adirondack Plein Air Festival. We also held the very first art market, which Kathy Recchia will report on, as well as plans for an online holiday art market. We felt it was important for ArtWorks to maintain a presence, although in a limited way, So when this pandemic subsides, the people will still know what Saranac Lake ArtWorks is. Our members are the key to the organization. You are creating and hosting events, producing and displaying the arts in all the broadest definitions. Our intent is to be able to connect you with audiences through means you might not be able to afford to do yourselves. So now let me introduce you to Doug Whiteman, our candidate for treasurer, who comes from a book publishing background with 31 years with a large New York City-based publisher, and much of that time as an executive in charge of a $200 million plus division. I think he'll be able to handle ArtWorks finances. So here's Doug.
Well, thank you very much, Sandy. I hope everybody can hear me. I just unmuted myself. So I wanted to just say that I've been around the fringes of ArtWorks for about 8 years now, volunteering at plein air events and other setup of art tours, studio tours, etc. And was very pleased that Sandy asked me to start helping out a little bit on the fiscal end of things earlier this year. So what I'm going to do tonight is, I hope very quickly and relatively painlessly, walk us through the financial picture of Saranac Lake ArtWorks. So I'm going to do a screen share with everybody just for a very quick few minutes. So I'm going to let you see my financial presentation. So here we go. And I have to get to it. So this is our position as of September 30th. And what you'll really see on this first slide is the ugliest of the slides that I'm going to be showing. This is our revenues, both 2019 on the left side and 2020 on the right side. And you can really see what COVID has done in terms of impacting our organization. The top line, memberships, is by far and away our closest between 2020 and 2019. That is, I think, a really great sign of the wonderful support we've had from our membership, because we've really been able to hold that very, very steady. But most every other one of the lines here, our registration, which is very much driven by plein air, our grants, our donations, and of course the plein air sales revenues have all been quite a big drop off from last year. So overall, we went from 75,000 in revenues last year, very much influenced by a great plein air, to 35,000 this year to date. So that's kind of the ugliest side of the picture. What you're going to see on the next slide is our expenses, which we've certainly been cutting commensurately with our reduced revenues. So you'll see the advertising and promotion line has dropped off quite a lot. We weren't doing studio tours. We weren't doing art walks this year. And we did have the brand new website, which you'll see on line 2 there, which has done a great bit of our online virtual advertising this year. So it kind of explains why our advertising and promotion was down so much. Thank God it was, because we weren't taking in very much money this year. Most of those other lines you'll see are down quite a lot from 2019 to 2020. Printing and design, as Sandy said, we printed a lot fewer brochures this year. We've had a lot less expenses in terms of dues and fees. We have gone up in freelance. We've been putting Kathy Recchia, who you'll hear from in a few minutes, to a very great deal of work this year in setting up the virtual plein air festival as well as the art market. And then again, on the expense side, you can see the commissions that we paid out on plein air are obviously much lower than last year because our revenues were lower. I do have a little asterisk there because we had not yet paid out the commissions on September sales by the time this was cut off. So that number will go up a little bit between now and the end of October. So that's really the end of the expense picture. We're down 34,000 in expenses. Again, we had to do most of that because of the reduced revenues this year. And then my last slide is just our budget. And here also, I think you see a fairly positive picture because by the time we put together our budget for this year, we already knew that COVID was with us. So Sandy had dramatically reduced our expectations in terms of revenues as well as expenses. And you'll see on the left side, we had budgeted a total revenue of 27,000 and change. We are actually at 35 and change. So we've certainly done better than the grim picture that we had feared at the beginning of the spring. Likewise, expenses, Sandy budgeted very conservatively at 19,928. We're actually well over that, primarily if you look at that very last expense line, the plein air awards and commissions of 11,880. We didn't think when this budget was put together that we were going to have any plein air sales at all. So the fact that we were able to do one with the virtual version of a plein air sale, we clearly did have commissions that we had to pay out. So that is the status of our financial picture at the moment. It's certainly much better than it could have been. And we've certainly managed through a difficult year, I think, quite positively. And we have much to look forward to next year with the fact that we are now a 501c3 and can go out and do much more aggressive grant writing and fundraising. So that is our picture. And on that note, I am going to try, if I can, to get back to our regular video here, and I'm going to turn it over to my wife, Susan, as I so often do. And Susan is going to walk us through the results of our plein air. So hang on just a second, Susan. I'm going to get us back, I hope, to our video. I need to stop screen share. There we go. And Susan, it says you are unmuted, so go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Susan Whiteman, if you don't know me. Been a member of ArtWorks for many years and have been coming to meetings, and it just grew into my being the acting secretary of the as yet to be voted on board. And I'm very pleased to be taking part in keeping ArtWorks alive and going. And I'm very excited about our 501c3 status. Like Sandy, I'm a plein air painter, and I have participated in the Adirondack Plein Air Festival since 2012. This year, Sandy Hildreth, the mastermind and the energy behind our plein air festival, is stepping away from her role as coordinator of the event. I've assumed her duties, and I think you'll agree that I have big shoes to fill. The plein air event has been a huge contributor to ArtWorks' financial success, and it brings tourists, artists, and art buyers to the area, furthering ArtWorks' mission to increase the awareness of our area as an arts destination. This year's plein air event, as you've been told, was affected, like everything else, by COVID, and Sandy and the acting board made the decision to take this year's event online. Originally, 55 artists registered through online juried shows for the event, and after the entries were scored and juried, 35 artists accepted. When we made the decision to do an online show, 33 artists ended up participating in the event, and we gave them 3 weeks to paint anywhere within the blue line. They sent in selfies, those were posted on social media, and then the show was put up online on the evening of August 21st. We have a pre-sale that has been very successful every year, and we continued that this year. 25 people bought tickets for the pre-sale, and we sold about $7,200 worth of art the very first evening of the pre-sale. The show was online for 6 weeks. Most paintings were purchased in the first 2 weeks. Our total sales were almost $16,000. 22 artists sold a total of 30 paintings. ArtWorks retained our 30% of that total, less transaction fees. So we made almost $4,800 from that event. So that was an impressive total for the year compared to last year and other years. Not so much, but we did what we could. Doug, you just flipped off the other screen. I'm not sure what happened to that. In any case, we're working hard this year to find a physical venue that will be viable in the event that we're still under COVID-19 restrictions. The 2021 Plein Air Festival we're planning to have will run from August 16th to August 21st, COVID willing, with a 2-day plein air workshop on August 14th and 15th. Our ad copy is set for Outdoor Painter, Plein Air Magazine, which publishes the plein air events for the year in its December-January issue so that artists can plan ahead for their year. We currently have conditional approval to use the Harrietstown Town Hall for our show and sale as in past years, but we're also looking at options for having the show and sale as an outside event only, whether that is under a tent or possibly at the Dewey Mountain Recreation Center not far from Town Hall. ADK Action has generously agreed to co-sponsor our event again, and we thank them for that. Our juror of awards and our workshop artist is set. His name is Charles Newman. He's an oil painter who hails from northern New Jersey. He was tearing up the plein air circuit with awards at some of the biggest events of the plein air seasons in 2018 and 2019. We have tentative plans for lodging for our juror, which we usually provide for free, but depending on if that person rents their lodgings, we need an alternate volunteer to house Charles for the week of the workshop and festival. So if you know anyone or if you might be able to do so, please let me know. The workshop is open to anyone. You don't need to be a part of the Plein Air Festival to attend. And we encourage you to look at our website as we get closer to the event. Charles is not only known for his plein air landscapes, but he has very deft and artful renderings of structural paintings. So the workshop will be a bit of both things. Regarding lodging for artists for next year, we usually arrange for free lodging for our artists through volunteers within the community. Again, depending upon COVID restrictions, I'm looking at alternatives. One of those alternatives might be Paul Smith's if they have dorm rooms available to rent. I won't know until the spring, but again, if any of you have separate lodgings available for artists, please let me know and we'll take that into consideration as we know what is happening with COVID. ArtWorks has recently invested in more portable display racks, which will obviate the formerly huge task of getting the heavy display boards from the school and transporting them back and forth. These racks will be used in ensuing years for events for our artist members, making more opportunities like last year's November 29th show and sale possible. They'll also be available to ArtWorks members as rentals for a nominal fee when they're not otherwise in use for ArtWorks events. I'd like to form a committee to help with the various tasks necessary for a successful festival. I was recently at a plein air event in the Hudson River Valley, and they had 5 people working together to launch the event. I'll need people to help with publicity, in contacting our award sponsors, someone to ask local businesses for things to put into the survival/goodie bags, people to help with websites and other odds and ends. And there are a lot of things that get done in the last week, names, name tags and labels for the artworks and things like that. On my wish list of new things for the plein air event for this year is to have someone solicit and make a list of private property owners that might be interested in having artists paint on their land, you know, people who have nice views or something like that. And also someone, I am not that person, I can't do this, but someone who might be able to make an interactive map of the area available as an attachment for accepted artists that will have pins showing points of interest and detail and photos of the area, and we'll be able to have them get directions from wherever they're staying. So I'm looking for people to do that as well. There's a lot to do. We have great hopes for hopefully being able to hold this as a real in-person event next year. We're working hard to see that that happens. If you'd like to volunteer to help out, please send me an email. Some of you have my email. I'll include it in the minutes, and hope you'll find time and the motivation to help out with the event. That's it for me. And I'd like to introduce Marie Kogar.
Marie, I don't think you have your mic on. There we go.
Thank you. Okay. I'm Marie Kogar, and I work as a fused glass artist in the area, having been in many arts, singing and so on. I'm here to talk about the Cape Air Gallery. The Cape Air Gallery is actually located in what they call officially through Cape Air as a city ticket office, or it's the hub where people can call Cape Air and they may get the person that's in the Cape Air building, or they may get somebody else from Hyannisport or whatever. Approximately, I would say 3.5 years ago, one of the hub workers in there, together with a group of artists, approached them, would they consider having artwork hanging in that facility? It's a large facility on the corner of Main Street in the Village, and appeared very stark. So with contact with headquarters, we were able to get the permissions to be able to display our art. Members that are part and can participate in this gallery are full ArtWorks members that do not have any place in the Village that they would be displaying their art. It gives an opportunity for people like myself that live in the country to have visibility with showing the art. It also has provided some camaraderie among the artists that are in the facility itself when it comes time to changing up and to cleaning the area. The COVID, of course, has changed this. The building is not open except for their hub business. But in the past, the highlights have always been the third Thursday art walks where the building was open. We had many people that would come through, and we would also have music like a harpsichord playing or so on. It was a time when we could have 25 people in a small area. Art was sold. Interaction was taking place between the artist and the many people, local as well as tourists. So it's been a wonderful opportunity for, like I said, ArtWorks members that are in the rural areas. At this time, I can just say to you is that we have probably 15 ArtWorks people that are artists that are in that building. There's opportunities for many more. Several artists, because of the building being closed, removed their art, but would still like to participate once the COVID is passed or there's a vaccine. So at this time, mine is short and sweet to say that we have enjoyed and hope to continue to enjoy having this available to us. So at this time, I will turn myself over to Kathy Vecchia, who I'm going to call her the Magic Project Coordinator for the ArtWorks 501c3 at this time.
Okay, thanks, Marie. As Marie said, I'm Kathy Recchia. I've been involved with ArtWorks, probably like going back maybe 7 or 8 years. I first got involved when I was Decentralization Grant Coordinator and came to some of their meetings and used to cite ArtWorks as like the model group for the whole North Country, I would say. And then I took the job at Blue Seed Studios as operations director. So I was working for both Blue Seed and ArtWorks, and I continue to work for ArtWorks on a project basis. So the things that I was point person on this year were supposed to be studio tour and art walks. But when the pandemic happened and we realized we couldn't go according to plan, I spent a lot of time talking to you folks to see what we could do in lieu of that. And we came up with our first ever art market, which we had on September 26th. And we were really lucky. The weather was fantastic. We had a wonderful day. We had 20 artists, artisans, and writers present, both members of ArtWorks and non-members. We opened it up to everyone since that's what Art Walks and Studio Tour is about. We had more than 700 people walking through, but never too crowded. We had a one-way entrance and exit, and we kept track as the people came through. We had great support from the Chamber of Commerce. We had Emma and Patrick working for us. Emma spent the whole day with us, and Patrick set up the configuration at the park, and he also made sure we were well supplied with masks and hand sanitizer and got the various approvals that we need from the village. We talked to the artists. We did a survey afterwards, and all the feedback was great. Our only flaw was the bathroom situation, which if we do this again, which we hope to, we'll try to work that out better, although we do have a new bathroom facility at the boat launch, but it was not open yet. So if we do it next year, we're hoping that will be open. We know there were some great sales, that the writers sold books, the jewelers sold many things, and some of the visual artists sold some paintings. And some of the feedback was that, yes, we would like to do it again. Some people suggested more than once. I think probably the overall recommendation I would make based on the feedback is that we do two, perhaps one in July and one in September, depending on the situation with the pandemic next year. If we are able to do art walks, perhaps we could maybe have the September art market replace one art walk, but go ahead with the rest of them as we normally do. And studio tour, again, that's such a personal thing for the artists, opening up their homes. I would say, based on the talks I've had this year, we might want to do something more like support individual artists who choose to do studio tours. But this is open for discussion with our membership and with our artists who aren't members to fill you out more on what you want to do next summer. We also have Glenn Burnett was at our art market talking to many of our artists to see about what he could work out as kind of a narrator and tour guide if we wanted to do a virtual studio tours. So that's kind of on the back burner. We're waiting for him to get us some figures on what that will cost. So moving on to kind of replace our November 29th sale last year, we are going to do an online holiday art market. It will be from November 15th to December 15th on our website. It's only for ArtWorks members, so if we have any non-members listening, hopefully you'll join up and be part of it. Members will be invited to submit 3 pieces that we'll feature and set up to sell online. The deadline for materials is November 8th. The artists would do their own shipping, but they would include the shipping fee into the selling price so it can all be one for the customer to see online. ArtWorks would keep 30% commission and would handle all the sales tax. Artists would make a commitment to get the piece to the customer by December 25th. We have all these details in an email that we're ready to send out to you guys. We just sent a little teaser letting you know that we will be doing the holiday art market, but we will have more details, and we have a Jot form link that's ready for you to go to and register. So that's about it for me. I think most of you have my email. It's, excuse me, adkartseast@gmail.com. So if you have any questions on any of the art markets, or if you hadn't given me feedback and would like to, feel free to email me anytime with that information. So I will turn over the floor to Mark Kurtz now. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. I'm going to be quicker than the others because I don't have a lot to say right now. I'm Mark Kurtz. I was one of the founding members of the Saranac Lake ArtWorks back about 11 or 12 years ago, and a dozen of us artists and arts organizations got together to get a lot more coordinated in the marketing and promotion of Saranac Lake as an arts community. And I've been pretty involved since then. I'm a photographer based in downtown Saranac Lake with my studio and gallery right here in town. And I'm also currently the Blue Seed Studios board president. My involvement with ArtWorks, I've stepped back a little bit. I'm still on the board, but am not as directly involved as some others are. My Blue Seed responsibilities is taking up a lot of my time, and I've been pretty focused on that. But I'm going to talk a little bit about our future plans. One thing we learned, when I say we learned, I don't mean just ArtWorks, but all of us have learned during COVID, is to make plans, but be prepared to go to plan B and maybe plan C, or maybe be prepared to cancel altogether. A couple things we didn't do, we've already talked about that with the art walk and the studio tour, both of which were all planned and ready to go, and obviously had to be canceled completely this year. The studio tour art show and sale that happened in late November on the Thanksgiving weekend is not going to happen in the way it did last year. That was a first time event, and we thought we would carry it on, but the circumstances just aren't going to allow us to do that this year. Things we did do, though, is marketing and advertising. We didn't do as much as we would have because so many of the things were canceled. We didn't necessarily do any marketing for that, but the idea was to keep the Saranac Lake ArtWorks name out there so that even with everything kind of closing down over the spring and summer, people knew that ArtWorks was still around and still doing things. Things we did also was the plein air. Susan went into detail about the plein air. And the art market, which was a new event this year, and Kathy went into detail about that. And she also talked about how we're going to be doing a holiday art market, and that kind of is a replacement in a way for the November studio tour art show and sale we did last year. So those are some of the things we didn't do, but some of the stuff we did do. For 2021, as we plan ahead, first of all, everything is in the very early planning stages. You heard Susan and Kathy both talk about events that we've got coming up, but there's a lot of ifs and maybes because we're still trying to work out the details. And to go back to what I said to begin with, we plan, but we have to be ready to go to plan B or plan C because things can change and suddenly, and all of a sudden we have to shift gears a bit. So the art walks at this moment, we're planning to do as we have in years past. Be the third Thursday of the month, June, July, August, and September. Although Kathy talked about maybe the art market replacing one of the art walks. The art market also, just to understand, was something that we came up with that could kind of replace the art walks under this past unusual year. Studio tour, as Kathy talked about, we're planning on it, but we're in the very early stages of it. Ideas and input would be valued. So if anybody has any thoughts, please get them to us. The studio tour is something that has gone through a lot of transitions over the years. We've tried various ways of doing it. And as we look to 2021, we're looking again at making some adjustments on how to do the studio tour. But it's again in the very early stages of planning. And the art market, again, Kathy talked about that, and we're still working out plans on that. Marketing and advertising, hopefully we'll be ramping that back up again as we go into 2021 with more things going on. Fundraising, with ArtWorks being now a 501c3, we are in a position to do fundraising, which we've not really done in the past. Everything in the past, well, let me back it up a little bit. Everything prior to ArtWorks coming under the umbrella of Blue Seed Studios, as it was for about 2 or 3 years, everything prior to that was came from basically membership fees and the money we took in various sales, like the plein air festival, but we never went out and was actively fundraising. When we were involved with Blue Seed, we coordinated very closely with Blue Seed and did do fundraising, and we learned some things along the way. And now that we're our own 501c3, we're in a position to do fundraising. But that's brand new for us. So we're going to start moving forward on that, and we'll see where it goes. Potential for grants, that's in the same class. Again, being a 501c3, we have the ability to apply for grants that we did not back before we became involved with Blue Seed. So these are things that are all that we're looking at, and we're investigating, and we're seeing what we can do. But again, we're a brand new organization in that respect. And so we're kind of learning as we go. One thing that popped in my mind when Doug was going through the finances, he made reference to the brochures. I just wanted to mention that we still have brochures available. So if people are interested in getting more brochures for whatever kind of distribution they can imagine doing, can come by my studio. I'm at 52 Main Street. I'm in the doorway right between Ampersound and the Artists Guild. Top of the stairs on the left is a box in front of my door. Come and help yourself and take whatever brochures you might be able to use. I think I pretty much hit on all the stuff I was supposed to. So I think at this point, we're going to go back to Sandy.
Okay, we are actually at the point now where you've basically met all our candidates for the board of directors, with the exception of Steve Horn. We really need to develop our board. This is sort of new for us. We've mostly been the same small core group of people who've been running ArtWorks for 13 years. We'd like to build a strong and active board with people on it with many different skills. For example, we could really use somebody who has experience with fundraising. And we need a board that will help provide advice and guidance. And then hopefully we'd like to encourage more members to participate on committees or event planning groups. You heard people talk about that. So here's our slate of officers. Susan Whiteman, our candidate for secretary, has a background in trade book publishing, marketing, and publicity. Most recently worked as a certified medical assistant in a busy pediatric office in New Jersey. She's detail-oriented and organized and produces outstanding work in oils and pastels. Doug Whiteman, our treasurer, was introduced previously. I think you can tell that he's very skillful in terms of managing the finances. Mark Kurtz, just about everybody knows anyway. For 30 years, he's been a fixture at Saranac Lake events, and he's well known, active in the art and community events. So Stephen Horn brings 40 years of experience, including working at the Adirondack Park Agency as a painter, illustrator, museum exhibit designer, and creative project director. And he brings these skills to ArtWorks in this really exciting new time for the organization. We're glad to have him. Marie told me that art has always been a part of her life in areas of choral singing, piano, and gardening. And of course, she loves doing her fused glass work in her home. And as you can tell, she's been an excellent coordinator of the Cape Air space, and we appreciate all of that work. And as far as me, I'm a retired high school art teacher with 31 years in North Country classrooms. I moved to Saranac Lake in 2004 to focus on my landscape painting, joined the Adirondack Artists Guild Gallery, and was a founding member of ArtWorks. And at that point, I'd sort of made a personal decision that I wanted to dedicate some of my retirement time to helping my colleagues in the arts, and that's exactly what I've done. My goal for these 13 years has been to grow ArtWorks to the level where we could hire an executive director, doing everything with volunteers and sometimes paying for specific work on a contractual basis really has limitations. I feel we will only really hit our stride when we have a director, which may have to be part-time at first, but we're so close to being ready for that. So voting, some of you have already voted via email. The rest, as long as you're one of the current professional level members, are welcome to submit an email vote now, or at least before 10 p.m. tonight, or you can use the chat option and submit your vote that way, which is a yes or a no for the slate presented. And you can do that at any time. And I do want to announce that 2021 is going to be my retirement year, finally. I tried to retire about 5 years ago, but just couldn't quit. I wanted to get ArtWorks closer to becoming a real entity. And we are that now. And with the help from many other people, ArtWorks has grown to become a strong professional organization that has really accomplished some things. We have made Saranac Lake an arts destination. The Chamber of Commerce voted us Business of the Year in 2015. We didn't even have a place of business. The Adirondack Plein Air Festival is nationally recognized. Artists are attracted to the area because of its natural beauty, and they see and hear things that are going on. And visitors are interested in the arts because of the number of skilled artists we have, the quality of the events, and the creative environment, as well as the natural environment. All of this has a positive economic impact on our region. And you've probably heard me say this before, but we do all this without producing any pollution. We don't require any infrastructure. We don't cause any harm to the environment. So the arts are really a win-win situation for all of us. So thank you for all that you've done and for attending this. So Doug, have there been any comments or questions that we can address?
I'm getting votes, but I don't have any questions or comments from anyone at this time. So I guess we've been very clear.
Well, I hope so. If anyone does have questions, you can always send them to info@SaranacLakeArtWorks.org. We will get an email out about the online holiday art market. There's going to be no charge for this, just like there was no charge for the September 27th art market. And we look forward to doing what we can to help our members, and we appreciate your support and attendance at things.
So Sandy, I'm starting to get some questions now. I've heard from Fred Balzac, who would like to clarify who is on the slate. And I would just confirm that it is the 6 that were listed in the email. So it's Sandy, Susan Whiteman, myself, Doug Whiteman, Marie Kogar, Stephen Horn, and Mark Kurtz. Those are the 6 people who are being positioned for the board slate.
And that's because we want to be able to hire Kathy to do things. So we couldn't invite her to be on the board because you can't pay a board member.
And I'm getting lots of votes, which Sandy, I'll forward those to you later, but I don't have any additional questions at the moment.
All right, anybody else have something you want to say?
I have a question about membership.
Okay.
Okay.
So currently, what is membership for individuals?
For an individual artist, it's $150. And that gets you your own page on the website, and it gets you a individual listing in the brochure, and you can put all your events on our calendar.
Is there a lesser cost category for membership?
No, not really. It has been this, I think we started out at $150. And we have kept it that way. We figure we really do provide a professional presence for our members that pay that fee. And if you look at what any kind of advertising costs, if you were to do your own ad, say in the Chamber of Commerce Visitors Guide, or even in the newspaper, you don't get much for $150. But
Well,
for
I would
us,
encourage.
we will promote artworks and you're included in that. And we spend a lot of money on advertising in a normal year.
Right. I just wonder if you might grow your membership if you had a second category that was a bit less. I'm thinking more of non-visual artists who may not have, like writers, who may not have a need to, have the kind of display benefits that come with the $150 level, but perhaps would consider joining artworks and, if it was less, particularly
Well,
people starting out. Just throwing it out there for the board's consideration.
Sure. And we did have some members join, and they joined at the, there is a $25, I think we called it a supporting membership. And it doesn't get you on the website other than just having your name listed somewhere as a supporting member. But there is that, and they get all the emails and they would hear about events and stuff. But your point is well taken, and we can talk about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Wow.
I'm getting some positive comments, Sandy, that people really found this helpful and informative, but
Good.
no more questions.
Can I say something to
course.
what Fred just talked about or asked about?
Yes.
One of the places that we have not had a lot of membership, and that is from the performing arts, mostly from the music end of things. And it could be partially because of what Fred alluded to is, there may not be a value in having a part of a place in a brochure or on the website if you're a musician. That I don't know. I'm not a musician. We'd certainly like to have perhaps more involvement from the performing arts, musicians and performers involved with artworks. But I guess what we would need is to have some of those people, become members and become involved so that we can be more responsive to that, a member from that whole part of the arts. We have mostly visual arts. We have the Adirondack Center for Writing, so we have the literary arts that are certainly involved. There are authors that are involved. And there are some musical organizations. I know the Northern Lights Choir has been a member in past years. I think they are this year too, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it is more visual arts than anything, but that's not because that's only what we want. If we had some people involved from the world of music, we could perhaps be more responsive and do things that would be more appropriate or more beneficial, to musicians or performing artists. So I kind of just toss that out there for people that might be interested, but they kind of wonder if there's a place in artworks for musicians and stuff. And yes, there is, but we would need some input from those people too.
Can I just respond to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mark. Obviously, any organization is going to focus on the needs and interests of the people who are involved. So to the extent that artworks is more visually arts focused, perhaps, then that would make sense. Looks like there's some, I think there's at least one or two people from Pendragon on. It'd be great to hear from them. I'm currently involved with the new play series that's going on Thursday evenings, and I see that you have it on your website calendar. Thank you very much for that. So we have that, and we have obviously a strong writing community as well as music. So I'm big on collaboration and also coordination. So to the extent that artworks could, steer the ship, so to speak, in terms of getting more collaboration, both within the same art forms, but also across disciplines. I think that would be great. And also coordinating events and, various workshops, those kind of things. I think those would be great areas of growth for artworks to the extent that you can add people in other disciplines. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's something that we're very interested in doing more of. You know, Pendragon is currently a member, and it was one of the founding members of ArtWorks. It's been involved ever since the very beginning. Bob Petty was actually directly involved. That tells you how far back we go, as far as you know, Pendragon and Bob being involved. So perhaps more involvement directly with Pendragon could help reach out more to those performing artists and find out what more we could do to respond to their interests.
And remember too that part of our focus is, you know, not only to be helping our artist members and our organizations, but to ultimately be bringing people to the community. And once they're here in the community, maybe they're gonna hear somebody perform at one of the venues, or they will buy a book by one of the authors. So we do indirectly have a lot of impact, I think, through the visitors that we attract to our area.
And if I could, I'd like to add another thing here. Saranac Lake ArtWorks is a Saranac Lake-based organization, but we have found over the past few years that people are well outside of the Saranac Lake area are interested in ArtWorks and have in fact joined. We have quite a bit of membership actually from both Malone and Tupper Lake, and some from Lake Placid as well, and beyond that, quite honestly. And we actually had a meeting back, I think it was over a year ago, with people from outside our area to ask about their input on how are we doing it. We've always gone by the name, for example, of Saranac Lake ArtWorks. But we want to be responsive to those outside of just Saranac Lake because they're supporting ArtWorks as well. And at the time, everybody responded, don't change it, just keep going. What you guys have been doing has been great. And we still are open for input from those artists outside of just the immediate Saranac Lake area as well, because we've got quite a few of them now.
And that was also part of the reason when we had our logo redesigned. The original logo had Saranac Lake at the top and ArtWorks underneath it, about equal in size. And the new logo has art in big letters. Saranac ArtWorks works in smaller letters, and then Saranac Lake in little letters. Because we wanted, you know, this is our home base, but we didn't want it to dominate the logo like the original one did. So we'd be more welcoming to other communities. All right, I haven't seen any no votes coming in unless we get a flurry of no votes in the evening tonight. I think we're the new board. We're
Are
the
we
first.
counting mail-in ballots?
Did we get any? You pick up the mail. So congratulations, everybody. I think we're it. We're the board of directors now of Saranac Lake ArtWorks. We do have 3 positions to fill. So if you have ideas or want to suggest someone, or you'd like to do it yourself, let us know.
Cindy, I don't know if you see the comment that just came in from Catherine, but she's just echoing the what Mark was just addressing relative to the outside of Saranac Lake aspect of our membership.
All right, do we adjourn? I hear a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Second from Susan. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you again, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great evening.
You too. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Fred.
Have a great night.
Woo-hoo. Bye, everybody.
Have a good night. I'm going to stop our recording.